Hi there, YouTube. This is the Magnus, bringing you another Total War Warhammer online ladder battle. In this engagement, my opponent chose to bring Bretonnia, and I brought the Empire. Now, I've been seeing a lot of Bretonnia. About half of my opponents, maybe more, have been playing Bretonnia because there's been some pretty widely publicized builds that really take advantage of King Leoncore's being over buffed, in my opinion, in the latest patch with the DLC. So let's take a look at what I brought as far as a composition to try to deal with this. I have 2 great swords, Sigmar's Sons, and I have 3 spearmen ranked up 1 time. I have handgunners, a mortar, the Royal Altdorf Griffites. I have 2 Empire captains, 1 Amber Wizard, and the General of the Empire, all as a flying corps. My opponent brought 5 spearmen, 5 peasant bowmen, 6 men-at-arms polearms. He also has the damsel, 2 of the paladins. Where's the other paladin at? There he is. And King Leoncore. So let's see how this turns out. He's got the terrain advantage clearly on this map, but I brought the mortar to see if I can't use that to encourage Bretonnia players to have to come to me instead of making me come into their prepared positions. So we're going to go ahead and let the mortar start firing off. I aim for the center of his line because it's a pretty inaccurate piece of artillery, and it's hard to really do a lot of damage to Bretonnia with artillery because they spread out in such thin lines. Like, look how thin of a line this is, right? Compared to some other factions that tend to be bulkier, they have really thin soldiers, which kind of gives them an advantage at this. But the mortar has, quite a bit of ammunition. Does pretty good damage. It's anti-infantry, and if you just sit there and let me fire it at you all day, it's not going to be a good thing. So he starts to push forward, and I see his flying triumvirate pushing up like this. So I'm holding a bit, hoping I get enough winds of magic to be able to summon the Manticore before this whole thing starts. But I don't have enough. He gets in the range of my gun, and I decide it's time to commit. So I go after King Lewin. He's very quickly going to turn tail. So then I decide I'm going to try to dive down to this damsel, who obviously was brought forward to cast her debuff on my Air Force. But then he turns around and casts one of his abilities. Is that, let me see. I don't know if that was, yeah, I believe that was the damsel's debuff. So I pull back, where I have my gun to help my gunners here to help me out. I'll let him keep coming down the hill. My artillery's targeting some of his bowmen now, a much softer unit. So when it does get hits, it's going to have, a more dramatic effect since it's not armor piercing. Not that Bretonnia has a lot of armor, but the peasant bowmen have 15, so they have virtually none. So this gives me time. Now I have had enough winds of magic. I summon a feral manticore, and now his front line is coming into range of my handgunners, so they're going to start opening fire on the center of his line. But I also know that means soon his bowmen will be in range, and I'm going to have this engagement. Still have my cavalry hidden over here. Do not want to reveal them until I see an opportunity with them. So I push up with my flying. The goal is just to knock out a couple of these bowmen so that my infantry can get to his while taking less damage. He targets my handgunner, very smart, and that kind of focus fire is not going to last long. So here I come crashing into 2 of his peasant bowmen and actually clip a 3rd here, and then he's going to come in with his flying crew. So I'm quickly going to change targets to get off the bowmen, and now I want to go after the king, Leoncore. I put down a flock of doom in this area to weaken the troops that are coming to assist, since this is on the ground, and King Leoncore is going to take a mess of damage in a very short period of time. My soldiers are protected by Stand Your Ground, which is helping them out for now, and you're going to see that this little air battle is starting off in my favor. Now he has his archers shooting at my mortar, and I see a good opportunity to pull out my cav because I'm thinking he's probably distracted here. But my opponent's micro is very good. He is a highly ranked opponent, so I did expect that. He intercepts. I didn't notice for a while that he intercepted because King Lewin starts taking off, and I'm like, well, there goes the There goes the bait. We got to go get him. That's, you know, that's our guy. Meanwhile, my soldiers on the right break through and get to the second level of his men-at-arms polearms, and some of them are going to be able to start pushing towards his bowmen. Initially, I have the whole crowd chasing, well, with the exception of this one Empire captain, chasing King Lewin, but I'm going to bring them back and just leave one Empire captain on him. As you saw, I tossed down a flock of doom because he has that big, you know, bunched up amount of infantry here, so I wanted to get maximum effect out of that. I pulled most of my cav have been able to pull through into the bowmen, but the men-at-arms polearms are doing a great job of killing them and slowing them down, so they're not being nearly as effective. So I decided they need some help, so we bring in the flying corps to really punish this bowman unit. I start aiming my mortar at this large grouping of his units. King Lewin is routed from the field. This is really going to break the leadership and allow the Bretonnians to be feared and terrified, because they are immune to psychology as long as King Lewin and that beloved son of Bretonnia thing are up, which is just crazy because it fixes their only weakness, which is low leadership. But as you can see, as soon as he's dead, you know, if you hit them with artillery and scary things and terror-causing things, they very quickly melt away, and we have a decisive victory. So good game to my opponent. I did check IRU Robin after losing to me. He was ranked 65, so he's a very highly ranked player, bringing a very often used build, and it was really cool to be able to get a decisive victory over this build. Even if it was a bad player, I'd be happy about that, but to have it be a good player as well is pretty darn awesome. So let's take a look at the tail of the tape here. My spearmen did pretty well. My great swords cut through them like nothing. The same thing with Sigmar's sons, very effective. My cavalry did not do as well as they could have. You know, if he wouldn't have caught that charge coming in from the left, and I would have got right into his bowmen, they'd have a lot more kills, but their fear and terror had a lot to do with why the routing occurred. This unit, the Amber Wizard and the General of the Empire, because of their mounts, are their terror units in this army, and of course the mortar causes some fear as well. So the mortar did pretty well, considering, you know, how thin the Bretonnia lines were and how quickly, relatively quickly, that he came down. The handgunners were just there to support my air units, which they, you know, avoided us having to take an engagement before we summoned the Mana Corps, so they definitely served their purpose. Looking at my opponent's army, you know, his front line did okay. The second level ran really before they got to do much, and his bowmen, some were effective and some were effectively destroyed, just depending on which ones I targeted. So I hope this helps you guys out. This Bretonnia build is all over the place, and everybody's playing Bretonnia, and some people have one more bowman or whatever, but it's pretty much the same old thing. It can be beat. You just have to have a very clear goal for how you're going to do it, and of course the most important thing is get King Lewin Leoncoeur off the damn map, because he's what makes the whole thing work. Without him, Bretonnia is average at best. So if you learned something, if you enjoyed the battle, or you just love the sound of my voice, please hit like, please hit subscribe, it helps out. And until the next time, this is the Magnus, and I will see you on the ladder.